Yeah, the money's broken. And, you've described Bitcoin in the past as a revolution. And I saw your talk in BitBlock Boom, and you kind of spoke about technological revolutions and how they come about. And I think I would love to go here right now because I think
Yeah.
it's a great kind of big framework to think about Bitcoin. And you bring up how technologies, like revolutionary technologies, meaning technologies that kind of create a huge jump in productivity across all aspects of the economy. Like think railways, think electricity, think the microchip. Let's just start. Like, how do these revolutionary technologies come about, like in society, and then like maybe relate it back to Bitcoin?
Yeah. So what we can see when we study thousands of years of history is we can see it's always technology that changes the world because it changes the way that we work and communicate and organize. And so, I mean, just to give a couple really old examples, one that's been used, most Bitcoiners have probably heard before, but for thousands of years we had horses, and the Egyptian army would use horses with chariots, and the Roman army would ride horses, but they'd get off the horses to fight. And so we sort of had this like decentralized world. Yeah, we had some big armies, but we sort of had this decentralized force because man gets off a horse and he's no better than me, and man on man. But then we had the invention of the horse stirrup that then allowed a knight to get on a horse and fight from a horse. And then we got massive centralization because you could get one knight could control hundreds of serfs at the same time, and it changed the government landscape, the political landscape, because then we could create this feudal system where you could have a king and a knight, and they can control all these people. But then 500 years later, we had the gunpowder revolution, and now a serf could take out 100 knights with a gun. And then that dropped the feudal system. We sort of went back to this decentralized world. Then we had the industrial revolution, and we went on and on and on. Now, what are these technological revolutions? It's a cluster of technology. So it's not just one new technology, but it's a cluster of technologies that are formed that literally create a new paradigm that changed the world as we know it because of the way that it changes the way that we organize. And so, for example, then we were in the agrarian age, the farm and cottage industry, and then we had the industrial revolution, late 1700s. And it was a combination of technologies, of machines and machine power, that now machines could do the work of 5,000 men. And it created this centralization force where everybody moved into the cities to work on these factories. The one that I use at BitBlock Boom that people are familiar with is I was talking about like the automobile boom. So in 1908 was a technological revolution, but it wasn't just the automobile. The automobile had already actually been invented before that. But what Henry Ford created was not just the automobile, but he's known for creating the assembly line. So it's the automobile, the assembly line, and fuel and oil, or I'm sorry, oil and oil fuels.
Mm.
So it was the combination of those created this explosion. It changed the way we organize and communicate. So now we could live further because we could drive, we could move stuff around. And because of the assembly line, we could go into mass manufacturing. And this is a really big piece, maybe a rabbit hole I probably won't go down right now. But we can come back to it if you want, because that goes back into it changed the political structure back in 1908.
Yeah.
And we still have this political structure for that old world that we're not in anymore. Interesting topic. But if we look at that, what's interesting is that it wasn't just the automobile, the mass production of the oil and the oil fuels. It's everything that's created around it. So like the car is cool. It sits in my yard, but I can't drive it because there's no roads and there's no gas stations and there's no tires or any of that. And you're like, okay, cool. Then just go build some roads. Okay, great. What does it take to build roads? You need like Caterpillar tractors. Great. Well, who's going to design that? Who's going to make the rubber for the track on the Caterpillar tractor? Who's going to make the transistor? Who's going to make the alternator for like? Oh, there's all these things that have to happen just to even make the tractor to even go plow the road, to even make the road. Or think about a gas station. Oh yeah, just go make some gas stations. But like, think about how many thousands of pieces of technology are in a gas station. Like, who makes the rubber cover on the pump, or who makes the thing that goes into the tank to measure it? Or who came up with the pressurized system to transfer the gas from the truck to like? There's all of these things. And so what happens is technological revolutions, not only do they change the paradigm, change the world, but they create financial markets. And this is a key piece that I want to hit on, because if you look at 1908 automobiles, 1971 was the age of the microprocessor, which brought us telecommunications and the internet. And think about that. So because we got a microprocessor, it allowed us personal computers. Once we had personal computers, it allowed us to scale telecommunications and the internet. All of this has been created. Think about I don't even know, millions, trillions of companies and new technologies that have been created in the last 50 years around computers, telecom, and internet, right? But the point is if you look back, the last 50 years in financial markets have mostly been driven by tech, telecom, and internet. The 50 years in the markets before that were really dominated by Ford, GM, GE, and manufacturing like that. Before that, financial markets were really dominated by oil, steel, and things like that. And so I believe we're going into this next technological revolution, which will also drive financial markets for the next 50 years. And it's really Bitcoin sort of at the ecosystem, and I call it like the decentralized revolution. And so the internet, what happens, one internet sort of, or I'm sorry, one revolution starts running out of steam and the next one starts picking up. And so this internet is the last piece of this last 50-year revolution, and it sort of hit a wall. The internet started out very decentralized. When I started my first internet business in 1999, I had to run my own server in my office. There was no cloud hosting, none of that. But now everything has become centralized. Now everything's on Amazon, and they can just flip the switch off like they did with Parler. And so the internet doesn't serve us anymore. We're being censored everywhere we go. And so it's sort of lost really what it came for. And there's a way to fix that. And that's what this next revolution is, this decentralized revolution. So we have Bitcoin, which is a decentralized monetary protocol. We have like Nostr, which is like a decentralized communication protocol. And it'll use parts of the internet technology, but then it will help it scale into this next evolution. Because remember, Bitcoin is one piece of technology, but it's the cluster of technologies around it that really build this up. So Bitcoin has a cluster of technologies. You have peer-to-peer, you have time chain, blockchain that it uses. You have like incentive systems. Like there's all these different pieces of what Bitcoin is. And then it can spur all these new things. So just for example, I use like the car as an example. You have the car, but then you have like gas stations. But to get gas stations, I need to get gas into the tanks. I need to measure the tanks. I have to get plastic on the handhold. Bitcoin is also doing that. So just think about this, for example, like Bitcoin right now, we see that it's revolutionizing the energy industry. So in Texas, the grid is sort of being redesigned around Bitcoin sort of as this like battery system for that. You have companies like Riot Blockchain that are like vertically integrating it, and they're vertically integrated, which means that they're like building all of their own stuff. They're building their switches, they're building their wires, they're building all of that. So just think about now we have foreign nations that are starting to mine Bitcoin to help bolster their energy grids. So think about all the technology that will be built around that. So Bitcoin sort of being one piece of technology that will build this technological revolution. So now we're going to get new types of power plants, probably small nuclear reactors. We're going to need new like software for energy management systems. We're going to need new types of racks and cooling systems and switches and routers. And we're going to need thousands of pieces of technology just for what Bitcoin is doing, just in the mining space. We can go on one more example real quick, but like, we want to do like, we want faster, cheaper payments with Lightning. Well, Lightning doesn't really it wouldn't really work for 8 billion people today. So it needs to be improved. So what would it look like? Well, we're going to need probably giant data centers with lots of, Lightning nodes and servers in there. We're going to need all new types of switches and routers. We're going to need lots of liquidity. So we're going to need like new types of liquidity pools. And we're going to need software and apps to track our liquidity in the pools. And like all that has to be built. And so there's this yes, Bitcoin as a piece of technology is important, but we need all that other technology for it to really be effective. Otherwise, we just have a Model T sitting in our front yard and we can't drive it.